The Forsaken Vessel. Commander Elena Reyes stared through the viewport at the ship that would be her new command, and felt her heart sink. The TSV Meridian hung in the orbital dock like a wounded animal, its hull scarred with patch repairs and mismatched plating. Once a proud Terran Stellar Navy frigate, the Meridian had been relegated to the fleet's garbage bin. A glorified supply runner deemed too expensive to scrap, but too outdated to serve any real purpose. "They call it the Flying Coffin," said Lieutenant Commander Javier Santos, her newly assigned XO, as he stood beside her. "Though lately most just call it that piece of shit." Elena turned to him with a raised eyebrow. "That's still Captain's piece of shit to you, Lieutenant Commander." Santos laughed, the sound hollow in the observation deck. "Of course, Captain. I'm sure we'll give it a proper nickname soon enough." Elena's promotion to captain had come with the clear message that her career had plateaued. After challenging an admiral's reckless order that would have cost civilian lives, she'd been rewarded with command of the worst vessel in the fleet, a captain at last, of a ship no one wanted. "What's our crew complement?" she asked, taking one last look at her new command. 43 souls, all told," Santos replied, handing her a datavat. "Most with disciplinary issues or unique service records." Elena scrolled through the roster, a collection of insubordinates, oddballs, and washouts. The TSV Meridian wasn't just a ship of castoffs, it was crewed by them too. "When do we ship out?" 600 tomorrow. Our orders are to maintain patrol of the Epsilon sector border. It's mostly automated mining colonies and research outposts. The Epsilon sector, the absolute middle of nowhere. Elena nodded, handing back the datavat. "Well then, I suppose we should go meet our crew." 2 months into her command, Elena had learned every creak, rattle, and groan of the Meridian. The ship's engines weren't just outdated, they were practically antiques. The shield generators could barely repel space debris, let alone weapons fire. The navigation system occasionally lost its bearings and needed a manual reboot. And yet there was something about this broken-down vessel that Elena had come to appreciate. Perhaps it was the way Chief Engineer Prisha Kapoor could coax impossible performance from the ancient engines, or how their pilot, Flight Lieutenant Dakota Reed, could maneuver the unwieldy ship with inexplicable grace. The crew, initially distant and skeptical of their new captain, had gradually warmed to her no-nonsense approach and willingness to get her hands dirty. They were misfits, yes, but they were her misfits. Elena sat in her cramped quarters, reviewing the daily systems reports when Santos' voice came over the comms. "Captain to the bridge. We're picking up something unusual." When Elena arrived, the bridge crew was huddled around the sensor station, where Ensign Miyazaki was frantically adjusting controls. "What am I looking at, Ensign?" Elena asked, peering over her shoulder. "Unknown vessels, Captain. 3 of them, on an intercept course. They're not broadcasting any identification." Elena frowned. "Pirates wouldn't travel in a group of 3 in this sector." "Show me." The main view screen flickered to life, displaying 3 sleek, elongated vessels unlike anything in the TSN database. They moved with unnatural precision, their hulls gleaming with an iridescent blue sheen. "Those aren't human ships," Santos whispered. "Hail them," Elena ordered. "All frequencies, all languages in the database." Communications Officer Petty Officer Chen shook his head after several attempts. "No response, Captain." "They're scanning us," Miyazaki reported. "Their energy signatures are off the charts." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Humanity had encountered intelligent alien life nearly 30 years ago, but relations with the only 2 known species, the reptilian Varox and the gas giant dwelling Hylians, were peaceful. This was something new. "Yellow alert. Shields up, such as they are," Elena ordered. "Let's not appear threatening, but I want us ready." The unknown vessels continued their approach, moving with synchronized precision. "Captain, they're charging weapons," Miyazaki's voice cracked. "Red alert. Evasive maneuvers. Elena barked. Flight Lieutenant Reed's hands flew across the controls, but the Meridian's sluggish response was no match for the alien speed. A brilliant blue beam lanced out from the lead vessel, slicing through the Meridian's starboard shield like it wasn't there. The ship rocked violently as alarms blared throughout the deck. "Damage report," Elena shouted over the chaos. "Starboard hull breach on Deck 3. Emergency force fields are holding, but barely," Santos reported. "Our shields might as well be tissue paper against whatever they're firing." Another shot rocked the ship. Elena grabbed the command console to steady herself. "Return fire." The Meridian's outdated pulse cannons spat energy toward the alien vessels, but their shots dissipated harmlessly against shimmering blue shields. "Weapons ineffective, Captain," the tactical officer reported. Elena's mind raced. The Meridian couldn't win this fight. Not conventionally. "Chief Kapoor," she called through the comms. "What's the status of the experimental phase inverter you've been tinkering with?" There was a pause before Kapoor's accented voice responded. "Untested and unstable, Captain. It could fry our entire power grid. Could it disrupt their shields?" "In theory, yes. But install it on our main deflector. We need it operational in 5 minutes." "Captain, with all due respect, that's impossible," Kapoor protested. "Then do it in 4, Elena replied. "Santos, get a security team to engineering. I need all hands assisting Chief Kapoor." Elena turned to Reed. "Keep us moving. Pattern Omega-6. Make them work to hit us." The Meridian lurched and spun, avoiding the worst of the alien attacks through Reed's piloting skills, but they couldn't evade forever. Their ancient engines were already overheating. "Captain," Chen called out, "I'm picking up a transmission between the alien vessels. Our linguists can't translate it yet, but the computer is detecting patterns consistent with tactical communications. They're coordinating their attack," Elena realized. "Reed, on my mark. Take us directly toward the lead vessel." "Captain," Reed questioned, eyes wide. "You heard me, Lieutenant. Maximum thrust. Santos, divert all power from non-essential systems to the engines and that phase inverter." "Aye, Captain," both officers responded, though their voices betrayed their doubts. Elena opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, brace for impact. This is going to get rough." The bridge fell silent as the alien vessels regrouped, preparing for another coordinated attack. "Chief Kapoor's status," Elena demanded. "Inverters online, but it's highly unstable. I can't guarantee." "Now, Reed, take us in," Elena ordered. The Meridian's engines screamed in protest as Reed pushed them beyond their safe limits. The ship barreled toward the lead alien vessel, which seemed momentarily surprised by the suicidal maneuver. "Inverter at full power," Kapoor reported, targeting their lead ship. "Fire," Elena commanded. A pulsating wave of energy erupted from the Meridian's deflector dish. It wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense, more like a disruption field. The wave struck the lead alien ship just as it fired its weapons. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the alien ship's shields flickered and collapsed. Its own weapon discharge backlashed through its systems, creating a cascade of failures. Blue energy crackled across its hull before the vessel went dark, drifting lifelessly. The remaining 2 alien ships broke formation, suddenly uncertain. "They didn't expect that," Elena said with grim satisfaction. "Target the second ship. Same approach." "Captain, the inverter's already overloading," Kapoor warned. "One more discharge and we risk a core breach." Elena bit her lip. "Understood. Reed, set course for the nearest TSN outpost. Maximum sustainable speed." She turned to communications. "Chen, broadcast a Priority 1 alert to all TSN frequencies. We've just made first contact with a hostile alien species." As the Meridian limped away, the remaining alien vessels made no attempt to pursue. Perhaps they were assessing what had happened to their companion, or maybe they were calling for reinforcements. Either way, Elena knew this wasn't over. "Captain," Santos said quietly beside her, "what just happened?" Elena stared at the view screen, watching the disabled alien ship grow smaller in the distance. "We just announced humanity's presence to a new species, Lieutenant Commander. In the worst possible way. Turning the tide." News of the Meridian's encounter with the unknown alien species, now designated the Cerulean Empire based on the distinctive color of their ships and energy weapons, spread rapidly through the Terran stellar navy. What had begun as a chance encounter in a remote sector had escalated into a series of border skirmishes as Cerulean scout ships probed human territory. The Meridian, once the laughingstock of the fleet, now found itself at the center of humanity's first interstellar conflict. Elena's crew had been debriefed, their sensor logs analyzed, and their makeshift defense, Kapoor's phase inverter, studied by the TSN's top engineers. 6 weeks after the initial encounter, Elena stood in a secure briefing room at Arcturus Station, facing a panel of admirals. "Let me get this straight, Captain Rice," Admiral Hassan said, leaning forward. "You want to take your outdated, barely functional ship back into the combat zone?" "Yes, Admiral," Elena replied without hesitation. "The Meridian may be the worst ship in the fleet on paper, but we've proven it can be effective against Cerulean technology. One lucky shot doesn't make your ship combat ready," another admiral scoffed. "With respect, it wasn't luck," Elena countered. Chief Engineer Kapoor's modifications exploited a fundamental weakness in Cerulean shielding technology. While the rest of the fleet is scrambling to develop countermeasures, we already have a working prototype. Admiral Hassan studied her for a long moment. "The Ceruleans destroyed 3 of our patrol vessels last week. Their technology is decades beyond ours." "Which is precisely why conventional approaches won't work," Elena argued. "The Meridian isn't just outdated, it's unpredictable. The Ceruleans can't anticipate modifications they've never seen before." After hours of debate, Elena got what she wanted: authorization to modify the Meridian further and return to the front lines. The ship that had been deemed too worthless to properly decommission was now being fast-tracked for experimental upgrades. Chief Engineer Kapoor stood in the Meridian's engine room, surrounded by a team of engineers and scientists who had been assigned to assist with the ship's modifications. The once quiet engine room now buzzed with activity as cutting-edge technology was grafted onto the ancient vessel's systems. "This is insanity," Kapoor muttered, watching as a technician installed a prototype quantum resonator onto the ship's main power conduits. "We're turning this ship into a time bomb." Elena, who had been observing from the doorway, stepped forward. "Is that your professional assessment, Chief?" Kapoor jumped slightly, then sighed. "Captain, we're integrating experimental tech with systems that were outdated 30 years ago. The power fluctuations alone could tear us apart before the Ceruleans get the chance." "But if it works?" Elena pressed. A reluctant smile tugged at Kapoor's lips. "If it works, we'll have the most unorthodox weapon in the fleet." "That's what I'm counting on," Elena said. "The Ceruleans expect us to fight conventionally. They've analyzed our fleet, our tactics, but they haven't accounted for human ingenuity." Over the next 2 weeks, the Meridian underwent a transformation. Its hull was reinforced with experimental alloys. The engines were retrofitted with prototype accelerators. The weapons systems were completely overhauled with technology that wasn't even cleared for field testing. The bridge, too, had changed. New holographic interfaces replaced the outdated consoles, though they frequently glitched and required manual reboots. The crew had grown as well, with specialists joining to operate the new systems. "We're ready, Captain," Santos reported as Elena took her seat in the command chair. Though ready might be an optimistic term. "We're as ready as we'll ever be," Elena replied. "Set course for the Proxima Centauri colony. The Ceruleans have been harassing their shipping lanes." The Meridian departed Arcturus Station to little fanfare. Most of the fleet still viewed it as a doomed mission, sending an obsolete vessel against an overwhelming technological force. What they didn't understand was that Elena wasn't planning to win through superior firepower. The Meridian's strength lay in its unpredictability, in modifications that no military engineer would ever approve for standard deployment. 3 days later, the Meridian detected a Cerulean attack in progress. 2 of their sleek blue vessels were assaulting the civilian transport near Proxima Centauri. Battle stations, Alina ordered calmly. Activate the stealth modifications. Chief Kapoor had repurposed the ship's faulty sensor array, turning it into a crude but effective cloaking system. The Meridian wouldn't be invisible, but it would be difficult to detect at a distance. Approaching the engagement zone, Reed reported. Stealth systems functioning within parameters. The civilian transport is taking heavy damage, Miyazaki said, monitoring the sensor readings. Hull integrity failing. Take us in, Alina commanded. Prepare to deploy the resonance disruptors. Another of Kapoor's inventions, the resonance disruptors were designed to amplify the effect of the phase inverter, potentially affecting multiple Cerulean vessels simultaneously. As they closed in on the engagement, one of the Cerulean ships suddenly changed course, heading directly toward them. They've detected us, Santos warned. Good, Alina replied. That means they're focusing on us instead of the transport. Evasive maneuvers, pattern Delta 3. The Meridian lurched as Reed executed the complex flight pattern. The Cerulean vessel fired, its blue energy beams slicing through space where the Meridian had been moments before. Return fire. Conventional weapons only for now, Alina ordered. Let's keep our surprises for when we need them. The Meridian's newly upgraded pulse cannons spat energy at the approaching Cerulean ship. Unlike their previous encounter, these shots impacted with significant force, causing the alien vessel's shields to flare visibly. Direct hit, the tactical officer reported. Minimal damage to their shields, but they're holding back now. The second Cerulean ship abandoned its attack on the transport, moving to join its companion. They're coordinating again, Chen observed. Similar communication patterns to our first encounter. Alina smiled. Perfect. Let them think they have us outmatched. Kapoor, status on the resonance disruptors. Charged and ready, Captain. But I must warn you, this could overload half our systems. Noted. On my mark. Alina watched as the Cerulean vessels moved into a pincer formation, preparing to trap the Meridian between their weapon arcs. Now. The Meridian shuddered as the resonance disruptors activated. Unlike the directed beam of their first encounter, this was an expanding wave of energy that rippled outward in all directions. When it reached the Cerulean ships, their shields didn't just fail. They inverted, turning their own defensive energy inward. Both alien vessels convulsed as electrical discharges cascaded across their hulls. Their weapon ports darkened, and their engines sputtered and died. Direct hit to both vessels, Santos reported, unable to keep the surprise from his voice. They're dead in space. Hail the transport, Alina ordered. Let's get those civilians out of here before more Ceruleans arrive. As the Meridian escorted the damaged transport to safety, word of their victory spread. The ship that had once been deemed useless had now defeated Cerulean vessels twice. But Alina knew the real battle was just beginning. Over the next month, the Meridian continued its unconventional campaign against Cerulean incursions. With each engagement, they refined their tactics and modified their systems further. When the Ceruleans adapted to the resonance disruptors, Kapoor developed quantum phase torpedoes that could bypass their shields entirely. When the aliens began jamming their communications, Chen reconfigured old radio equipment to create an unhackable analog network. The Meridian became a legend, the broken-down ship that had become humanity's most effective weapon against a superior enemy. Other captains began adopting their tactics, retrofitting their own vessels with jury-rigged modifications, inspired by the Meridian's success. But the Ceruleans were learning too. Their attacks became more coordinated, their technology more adapted to human countermeasures. And they were angry, especially at the Meridian. They're hunting us specifically now, Santos noted during a strategy session. The last 3 engagements, they'd broken off from easier targets to pursue us. "We've become a symbol," Elena said. "We've shown that humans can't be easily conquered, that we can adapt faster than they can. The fleet's calling us the miracle ship now," Reed added with a grin. "Though I still prefer that piece of shit." The moment of levity was interrupted by alarms. Miyazaki's voice came over the comms. "Captain, to the bridge." Multiple cerulean signatures detected. When Elena arrived on the bridge, the tactical display showed what she'd been dreading. A full cerulean battle group, consisting of at least 15 vessels, heading directly for the human colony on Ta City. "How long until the fleet can respond?" Elena asked. 8 hours minimum, Chen replied grimly. "We're the only TSN vessel in range." Elena studied the display. The Meridian had survived against 2, even 3 cerulean ships. But 15, that was suicide. "Set course for Ta City," she ordered. "Maximum speed." "Captain," Santos questioned. "We can't possibly." "We can't stop them," Elena agreed. "But we can slow them down. Give the colony time to evacuate. Give the fleet time to respond." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't just a battle, it was a sacrifice play. "Aye, Captain," Reed finally said, setting the course. As the Meridian raced toward what would likely be its final battle, Elena opened a ship-wide channel. "This is the captain speaking. By now you've all seen the tactical data. We are intercepting a cerulean battle group headed for Ta City. Our mission is simple: buy time. Every minute we can delay them is another 100 civilians evacuated, another step closer to fleet reinforcements arriving." She paused, looking around at her bridge crew, no longer misfits, but the finest officers she'd ever served with. "I won't lie to you. The odds are against us. But this ship, this supposedly worthless ship, has already defied every expectation. We've turned the fleet's garbage into the ceruleans' nightmare. And today, we're going to show them exactly what humans are capable of when our backs are against the wall." The Meridian arrived at Ta City to find the evacuation already underway. Colony ships streamed away from the planet as the cerulean armada approached from the outer system. "Tactical assessment," Elena asked. 15 cerulean vessels confirmed, Miyazaki reported, including 3 we've never encountered before, significantly larger than the others. "They're flagship and heavy cruisers," Santos surmised. Elena nodded. "Target the flagship. All weapons, all modifications, everything we've got." "That'll burn out most of our systems," Kapoor warned over the comms. "I know," Elena replied simply. As the Meridian moved to intercept, the cerulean fleet adjusted course. They recognized the ship that had caused them so much trouble. "They're focusing on us," Santos said, diverting attention from the evacuation. "Good," Elena replied. "Kapoor, status on the final modification." "The core inverter is online, Captain. But once activated, there's no going back. The reaction will cascade through the entire ship." The core inverter was Kapoor's most dangerous creation yet, essentially turning the Meridian's power core into a massive version of their resonance disruptor. It would create an energy wave capable of disabling every cerulean ship in the vicinity, while destroying the Meridian in the process. "Understood. Helm, take us into the center of their formation." The Meridian accelerated toward the heart of the cerulean fleet. Enemy fire began pounding their shields, which flickered and failed under the onslaught. Hull breaches appeared on multiple decks as the ship pushed forward, engines screaming in protest. "Distance to optimal position," Elena demanded. 30 seconds, Reed replied, hands dancing across controls as she executed evasive maneuvers. "Evacuation ships are clearing the system," Chen reported. "Fleet reinforcements still 5 hours out." A massive blast rocked the ship, throwing several crew members from their stations. Smoke filled the bridge as consoles exploded. "Direct hit to engineering," Santos coughed. "Chief Kapoor reports the core inverter is still operational, but we're losing power fast." "Get us to that position, Reed," Elena ordered, wiping blood from a cut on her forehead. The Meridian limped forward, taking hit after hit. Systems failed across the ship. Life support began to falter. "We're in position," Reed announced. Elena took a deep breath. "All hands, abandon ship. Get to the escape pods." "Captain," Santos began to protest. "That's an order, XO." Elena cut him off. "Someone needs to tell the story of the Meridian." As the bridge crew reluctantly evacuated, Elena established a direct link to engineering. "Status, Chief." "Core inverter ready," Kapoor replied. Her voice was calm despite the chaos around her. "But the automatic timer is damaged. Someone will need to trigger it manually." "I'll do it from the bridge," Elena said. "Negative, Captain. The bridge controls are fried. It has to be done from engineering." Elena closed her eyes briefly. "I'm on my way." As she moved through the burning corridors of her dying ship, Elena thought about the journey that had brought them here. The Meridian had been a punishment, a dead-end assignment meant to end her career. Instead, it had become humanity's greatest weapon against an overwhelming threat. When she reached engineering, she found Kapoor alone, working frantically at the core control station. "You should be on an escape pod," Elena said. Kapoor looked up, her face streaked with soot. "So should you, Captain." They shared a knowing look. Neither had intended to leave. "How long until the Ceruleans realize what we're doing?" Elena asked. "They already have," Kapoor replied, gesturing to the sensor display. "They're pulling back, trying to get out of range." "Too late for that," Elena said grimly. "Let's finish this." Together, they activated the core inverter. The Meridian's engines began to emit a high-pitched whine as energy built up within the core. 30 seconds to critical mass, Kapoor reported. Through the viewport, Elena could see the Cerulean vessels attempting to retreat, finally understanding the threat the Meridian posed. "You know," Elena said softly, "I never thought I'd be grateful for being assigned to that piece of shit." Kapoor laughed, the sound incongruous amidst the alarms. "The best ship in the fleet, in the end." The core reached critical mass. In its final moments, the Meridian released a wave of energy that expanded outward at incredible speed. It washed over the Cerulean fleet, shorting out their systems, inverting their shields, and leaving them drifting hulks in space. The ship that had been discarded as useless had just dealt the Cerulean Empire their most devastating defeat. 3 months later, Admiral Hassan stood before the assembled ranks of the Terran Stellar Navy. Behind him, a holographic image of the TSV Meridian rotated slowly. "The sacrifice of Captain Elena Reyes, Chief Engineer Prisha Kapoor, and the Meridian will not be forgotten," he announced solemnly. "Their actions not only saved the Taz City colony, but demonstrated to the Cerulean Empire that humanity will not be easily conquered." He gestured to a group of officers seated in the front row, the surviving crew of the Meridian. Lieutenant Commander Santos, now captain of his own vessel. Flight Lieutenant Reed, whose piloting skills had become legendary. Ensign Miyazaki, Petty Officer Chen, and the others who had transformed the fleet's worst ship into its greatest weapon. In honor of their innovation and courage, the TSN has established the Meridian Initiative, a program dedicated to unconventional solutions to seemingly impossible problems. Because sometimes, as Captain Rice proved, our greatest strength lies not in our most advanced technology, but in our ability to transform what others see as worthless into something extraordinary. As the ceremony concluded, Santos approached the hologram of the Meridian. The ship that had been a joke, a punishment, a dead end. The ship that had saved humanity. "Still that piece of shit," he murmured with a sad smile. "But it was our piece of shit." Admiral Hassan, overhearing him, placed a hand on Santos' shoulder. "No, Captain. In the end, it was the most valuable ship in the fleet. In deep space, at the edge of Cerulean territory, their ships now kept a wary distance from human borders. They had learned a costly lesson about humanity, that their greatest strength wasn't in their technology or their numbers, but in their ability to transform weakness into power. The TSV Meridian, once the weakest ship in the fleet, had become a symbol that would echo across the stars for generations to come.